old buddy Ben with that #show.com. Once again, my presence on the internet is brought to you today by the fine folks over at Neff Vodka, reminding you please drink responsibly, as well as Toink.com. Point your internet browser to Toink.com, that's Toynk.com, where you can find everything Toink.com. I have previously brought you not one, but two videos where I sit down and talk to comic book legend Rob Liefeld. The first one we talked about his new run on Snake Eyes for IDW Comics. The 5-issue run is on your comic book store shelves right now. Then we talked to him about his 30th anniversary XForce Killshot, which will be hitting shelves in November. And now, witness the firepower of my fully armed and operational battle station, which is now complete in something I like to call a Part 3. That's right, in the third video of my 3-part series, I present to you just a fun conversation between Rob Liefeld and myself. We talk a little bit about Deadpool, we talk a little bit about working in comic books in the 80s and 90s, and a few other things, such as the return of comic book conventions. We had a lot of fun. Take a look. The people that are my age have become adults and can now spend their money on whatever we want. We've said we want to spend it on comic book culture, essentially. We go see Marvel and DC movies and any other comic book movies, properties that are coming out, which is very exciting for us. What's the difference for you as the artist who was working on these in the 80s and 90s to see this now to be, as you said, continuing to work on these and continuing to expand and look forward? What's the difference, in your opinion, in the culture and how this is developed, and how do you respond to that?
You know, last night I went to the Black Widow premiere, first premiere, you know, in 16 months. Yeah. And the Marvel fans and the crowds lined the streets down near the Chinese theater. I've been very fortunate. I go to a lot of them. Marvel is always very generous in making me a guest at these things. And it was a thrill to see. I couldn't believe how many Black Widow costumes there were. Every race was represented. I mean, everybody was rocking Black Widow costumes. Tons of Anthony Mackie, Captain America's, regular Captain America's, Hawkeyes. And look, I'm immediately transported back to when I was in high school in 1982, 1983, where I was trying to hide my comic book obsession because it wasn't quote unquote cool, to now where my son, for his 16th birthday, we got him and his 10 friends, you know, IMAX tickets for Civil War. And I, in his room, that picture is up, always framed him. And they had a really great basketball team at his school, and the entire basketball team is the 10 guys were his, you know, the guest, because they were his best friends watching Civil War. And that was his Civil War 16th birthday party. And you go, that the culture has completely pivoted towards 100%, you know, comic books, to the point where I feel bad for someone like oh, help me out, The Quiet Place. She's married to John Krasinski.
Emily Blunt.
So I feel bad when Emily Blunt is trying to do an interview about A Quiet Place. I really do. I feel bad that all anybody wants to ask her about is she going to be the Invisible Woman? And you go, because she's there to sell her craft and the hard work, but the culture is so obsessed with what's next in comic books. And on the flip side, you know, we got a greeting from Scarlett Johansson, you know, telling us about the global premiere happening on 4 continents, and, you know, last night, and she is sitting there selling us on Black Widow, and you go, this is the signature role of her life, is this comic book character who she's elevated. Black Widow didn't really even hold down her own extended comic book series, but now she's getting a multi-million, 100 million plus budget, couple hundred million probably, this giant. So you think of the effect it has on the actors, the producers, the directors, on Kevin Feige, who's you know, put this all together and really has held it together as well as you could ever possibly, when you're getting into the, you know, 24 films so far. And then obviously I love all the DC films. I love, look, we live in a comic book world now. That's what I'm trying to say, that in my own existence, with my own teenagers, with my kids, their friends. I mean, on the way, my son works at a golf course. That's his summer job. On the way out today, because I told everybody I'd be doing these interviews, he knocked on my door and he said, "Hey, Dad, I'll see you later tonight. We got Loki, right? We got Loki when I come home, and I want to hear about Black Widow." So his, you know, imparting me to have a good day came with 2 Marvel, conditions. And you go, that's the world we're living in, and it's exciting. And I agree. At that show and what's happening in the culture, it's not just, look, a copy of X-Men #1 sold for $800,000 last Thursday. A 9.6. I have a 6.0. I have a 6.0 X-Men #1 signed by Stan. I have watched it grow. I don't have a 9, but the 9 went for 802,000 copies. The guys that I'm bumping into, and now the art dealers, see, they're reflecting what you're saying in regards to the age. The kids of the 80s, the kids of the 90s, they want artwork from that era. They want McFarlane and Liefeld and Lee. And I'm getting calls, do you have any? Your stuff's blown up. I'm watching the auction houses. And the stuff that's now getting the biggest yields are our pages. And you're like, holy crap. In 1991, I put XForce in Sotheby's auction. It was one of the early Sotheby's. One guy bought Jim's entire X-Men and my entire XForce. It's on record. He spent 50 and 50, 50K, 50K, bought X-Men #1 for 50K, bought XForce #1 for 50K. I know a guy who sold an XForce #1 page for $100,000 2 weeks ago. You go, so 50K doesn't even buy you a page in XForce #1 now, because like you said, they're guys, they've told me, these guys on Facebook, they've come into my group, they've come into my page, and they said, Rob, I was 7 years old. My dad took me to the comic store. We got XForce #1. He wanted to tell me his memories. He said, I'm a lawyer now. I've got my family, I've got my income. This is what I want to spend it on. It's only going to get bigger because the biggest fan base is your guys' age, and you're coming into your own, and there's 10 years of that. There's the kids who were raised on X-Men, X-Force, Death of Superman, the Image Comics. Next year, we are a few months away from the 30th anniversary of Image Comics. And that is going to be another huge bubble. And I kid you not, you mentioned Spawn. I have many of my extreme characters from the early Image. It's hard to have the kind of movement that those are having and be quiet about them. And I'm talking directors and actors. And when that stuff comes out, and I've told these people, I guarantee you, if we make a high-end version of this property, if we get this high-end version of Prophet out there, you're going to see that John Prophet has more fans than certain DC and Marvel characters, because people ate that stuff up in the 90s. They love this stuff. If a high-end Spawn film comes out, forget about it. An opening weekend will be staggering. So that's my, trust me, I think about this all the time because it's all around me. You can't escape it. It's not something you can hide in your Peachy folder like I did and sneak a combo. It's on everybody's t-shirts now. It's on their jackets. They're wearing the amount of cosplay is through the roof. And again, I feel like in the period that Fox wasn't making Deadpool, I would always tell every cosplayer, thank you for keeping this alive. Before they greenlit it, every convention I'd go to from 2010 to 2014, more Deadpools. Suddenly there's 200 Deadpools taking a picture outside of San Diego, and you're like, what? And this is before the film, So the fans continue to show up and carry the medium. And for guys like us who create it, it's ridiculously emotionally rewarding, not financially. I don't want to discuss that, just emotionally, because again, this is my passion too. This is my passion as well. So that's my long-winded answer.
Well, and thank you so much. I want to be sensitive to your time, but I do have one last question.
Sure.
And well, one thing, quick answer. I just wanted to say, are you looking forward to conventions coming back? Because everybody I've been talking to is looking forward to it.
I'm telling you, like I said, this Sunday show that's never had more than 25 people was crashed by people who want to go to a comic show. I mean, so yes, I'm very much looking forward to it. I think, it's our reward. We've made it through this very, very difficult time. And I think for everybody who's I don't want to, bottom line, the vaccines have helped us get back to a place where we can congregate. There were, no masks. It felt normal. We were congregating in corners, sitting in chairs, talking comic books. The big scale shows, I think, are going to be enormous because the desire, the hunger, you've locked us down for 16 months, right? I mean, my kids, both my sons today said, I can't believe it's another summer without San Diego Comic-Con. I go, I know. We did that as a family on the biggest scale. So yes, it's going to be great. I can't wait.
Yeah. And final question. And you don't have to answer this if you don't want to.
Sure.
Because I know
you've had some statements, some opinions. What would Rob Liefeld be without statements and opinions? Of course. But is as a fan and as a journalist, I would be remiss if I didn't ask if there was anything fresh, anything new that you can share about what might be going on with a third installment of the Ryan Reynolds Deadpool franchise.
Every time I speak about Deadpool, people don't understand. I'm fairly well versed in this and fairly well informed.
Sure.
And there was a period that I was doubtful that there would be a transition, and it's got to do with all sorts of matters that, you know, are kind of above everyone's pay grade. Mm-hmm. But once they engaged Ryan in December and there is a new script, you understand, this is the thing people forget about. Ryan produced the first movie. He produced the second movie. He wrote the second movie. He got the Writers Guild gave him the arbitration that he was also a writer on that screenplay. Ryan just doesn't perform Deadpool. He is Deadpool. And the thing that I wanted people to understand, Deadpool is a huge asset. Before Fox was sold to Disney, the president of Fox told little Robbie Liefeld, this is our #1 priority. Deadpool is our most important franchise now. A studio that now no longer exists on its own because it was bought for $70 billion. This is not something that was bought like at a garage sale. Disney purchased it for $70 billion. They said Deadpool is our priority. Well, Ryan, the reason a Deadpool 3 is happening is because Marvel and Disney realized the importance of following Ryan's vision. Mm-hmm. And so now we're in a great place. No, obviously I can't tell you one inkling. I like literally I would vanish off the face of the earth. But when that I've been told before, we're watching you, Liefeld. Okay. So like I'm like, am I bugged? So I have to be very careful. But look,
of course,
you know, here's the deal. Here's something I chuckle about. They'll put up pictures of all the Batmans. Michael Keaton, Val Kilmer, George Clooney, Ben Affleck, now Robert Pattinson, obviously Christian Bale, the guys who did the voice actors. Then you go into like the just in the last 10 years, 12 years, we've had the last Tobey Maguire, mm-hmm. then we had Garfield, and we're already into a third Tom Holland, given all that. Mm-hmm. And I go, in all of that, there's one Deadpool, one guy since 2009. And he shot that in 2008 to get it to you by 2009. So, you know, there's one guy who's been Deadpool. And I can't imagine when he will not be Deadpool. Mm-hmm. But I'm glad that Marvel saw the importance of Ryan's vision in order. And I'm telling you, you read that press release. Kevin Feige talks about Ryan in a way that he has never talked about another talent. I mean, Ryan is a in-demand actor. Because Ryan commands this just by the fact that his performances and producing of those two films were so well received. And you'll never understand how many people did not think Deadpool was going to succeed. Look how long it took to get a screenplay written in 2010 before your eyes, you know? So I'm just glad that his achievements and his importance is recognized. And so what you're going to get is the very best of Ryan Reynolds, which is going to benefit all of us. But you know just as well as I do, the fact that it's going to be in the MCU is a game changer.
Right.
It flips people out. It literally, it's that special branding. You know, it's an MCU film. I mean, when that red Marvel logo went up before Black Widow last night, people scream. You know, and I've told my kids and my wife, I look, Marvel is the biggest brand name on planet Earth. There is no brand. My son will argue it's Pokemon. I say that's not even that's close, but Marvel gets it.
Right.
Bigger than Star Wars. That's my personal, you know, kind of opinion interaction. But I won't drone on. Deadpool 3 happening. The meeting of the minds went well, and we're going to benefit from it.
Perfect. That's all I needed, and I'm glad to hear it. Rob, I know you got other stuff to move on to, so I'll go ahead and let you go. But thank you so much again for your time.
Hey, thank you for having me, man. Thank you. Really good time.
I do want to say that I had so much fun talking to Rob. We sat down. The full interview took about 40 minutes or so. and I was able to split it up into these 3 different videos. So thank you, Rob Liefeld, for taking the time to sit down and talk to me. And that will conclude my 3-part series. Anyway, as always, my name is Ben Cleaver. This is thathashtagshow.com. And remember, folks, the reason I'm drinking out of this red cup, well, it's because whenever Ben Cleaver shows up, it's always a party.